Death tried many times. It came for him as a child, in dark rooms where breath failed and nights stretched too long. It waited for him on frontier plains, in gunfire, in disease, in war. It fired a bullet into his chest, and still he stood and spoke. To the world, Theodore Roosevelt seemed untouchable, a force of nature, a man who charged at danger and never slowed. But death was never his true enemy. Time was, and time never misses. Night comes early in the house on East 20th Street. Gaslight trembles behind glass, casting weak halos against wallpaper thick with shadows. Outside, New York breathes in coal smoke and horse sweat, iron and damp stone. Inside, a child fights for air. He is small for his age. His chest rises too fast, then stops. His mouth opens, desperate, silent at first. Then the sound comes, a rasp, a thin, scraping cry, like a match being dragged along brick. Each breath is a negotiation. Each breath asks permission. This is how Theodore Roosevelt first learns the shape of fear. Asthma has no mercy. It comes at night, when courage is weakest and adults whisper instead of shout. Doctors arrive with solemn faces and useless advice. Windows are opened. They are closed again. A father lifts the boy into his arms and carries him through the dark streets in a carriage, hoping motion will trick the lungs into obedience. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it does not. Death is a presence in the room. Not dramatic, not violent, patient, young. Theodore feels it hovering near the ceiling, listening to his breath the way a hunter listens for movement in tall grass. He cannot name it yet, but he knows it is waiting. When the attack passes, exhaustion follows. The body collapses inward, hollowed out. His limbs tremble, his head burns, and yet he is alive. Again. Morning comes. The city wakes. Milk carts rattle. Vendors shout. Somewhere, a church bell counts the hour. And the boy who almost died is expected to sit up straight, to read, to behave as if the night did not happen. He does. He always does. But something has been planted. A knowledge too heavy for a child. That life is not a given. That breath can be revoked without warning. That survival is temporary, conditional, fragile as glass warmed by flame. His body betrays him daily. He is weak, doctors say, delicate. A child meant for books, not motion. His eyes are large, his limbs thin. Other boys run. He watches. But watching is not passive. Watching is learning. He listens to his own heartbeat at night, counting it the way others count sheep. He memorizes the sensation of panic, how it floods first the chest, then the throat, then the mind. He begins to hate it. Not fear it, hate it. Hatred is warmer than fear. Hatred gives shape to helplessness. His father, a towering figure of quiet strength, never pities him. Pity would have been easier. Instead, there is expectation. Gentle, firm, relentless expectation. The boy is told that the body can be instructed, that weakness is not destiny, that effort matters even when victory is uncertain. One night, after an especially violent attack, when the air finally returns like a grudging gift, the child lies awake long after the lamps are dimmed. His lungs ache, his ribs feel bruised from the inside, and something inside him hardens. He does not make a vow aloud. Vows spoken aloud can be broken. This one sinks deeper. If death wants him, it will have to work harder. From that night forward, life becomes preparation. Every hour is provisional, every pleasure borrowed. He reads obsessively, not for escape, but for armament. History, natural science, warfare, exploration. Lives lived intensely. Men who acted before time could erode them. He notices how stillness invites pain, how motion delays it. He begins to associate rest with danger. Even as a boy, he senses something others do not, that time is not neutral. It is not a backdrop. It is an advancing force, silent, tireless. Doctors still speak in cautious tones. Relatives still worry. But the boy is already moving ahead of them, mentally, if not yet physically. He imagines a future where his lungs no longer dictate his fate, a future where the body is no longer an apology. He does not yet understand what such a future will demand. The city outside continues to grow, louder, dirtier, faster. Factories rise, smoke thickens. The world accelerates, and inside a narrow bed, wrapped in blankets against a chill that never fully leaves him, a child stares into the dark and listens for death. It does not come, not tonight, but it has introduced itself. And one day, he knows this with a certainty that frightens him more than the attacks themselves. He will stop running from it. He will run at it instead. The gaslight flickers. The city breathes. The boy closes his eyes, lungs aching, heart racing, already planning a war that will last his entire life. Time is watching, and it is very patient. Morning arrives with discipline, not mercy. The boy grows into a young man beneath clocks and schedules, beneath rules imposed as much by fear as by ambition. Weakness has not vanished. It has been challenged. Every breath taken without pain feels provisional, like a truce that could end without warning. He does not trust it. So he begins to build something stronger than trust. The body becomes a project, an experiment, a defiance. In cramped rooms, heavy with the smell of iron and sweat, he lifts weights too heavy for his frame. His muscles protest first, then adapt. Pain becomes familiar, even welcome, a language he understands. Bruises bloom along his arms and ribs, dark constellations mapping progress. He boxes, awkward at first, then fiercely. Fists collide with flesh. Blood tastes metallic. Each blow proves something essential, that he can be struck and remain standing. There is satisfaction in that. At Harvard, amid brick halls and winter air sharp enough to cut skin, he walks with purpose. His posture stiffens, his voice deepens. Spectacles perch on a face already carrying too much intensity for its age. He reads endlessly, yes, but now the reading is paired with motion. Thought and muscle advance together, like twin engines. Asthma still waits in the wings. It does not vanish. It retreats, resentful. Some nights it returns, uninvited, dragging the old terror with it. But now, terror meets resistance. The young man does not curl inward. He sits upright, jaw clenched, riding the attack like a storm at sea. Survival is no longer passive. Theodore Roosevelt, now tall, broadening, restless, learns a dangerous lesson during these years, that the will can dominate the flesh. That command, repeated often enough, produces obedience. This belief hardens quickly. It leaves little room for softness. Friends notice the intensity. Some admire it. Others step back. There is an edge to him now, a forward lean, as if standing still costs him something invisible. Conversation becomes debate. Debate becomes contest. He does not merely wish to be correct. He wishes to prevail. The body, once a source of humiliation, becomes proof of righteousness. There are moments of doubt, quiet ones. A hand resting on the chest after exertion, counting heartbeats. A pause before sleep, listening for the old rasp. In those moments, memory intrudes. The boy in the dark, gasping, watched by death. The memory is never allowed to linger. Nostalgia is dangerous. It invites weakness back inside, so he trains harder. He walks miles in bitter weather. He swims in cold water. He hunts exhaustion deliberately, believing that fatigue driven by choice is safer than collapse imposed by fate. Each act is an argument against time itself. Yet something else is being shaped alongside muscle and stamina. Patience erodes. Compassion thins. If he can conquer his own frailty, why cannot others do the same? This unspoken question settles into him quietly, like sediment. It will one day surface in decisions larger than he can yet imagine. He is admired now, even feared a little. The sickly child has been replaced by a figure of energy and insistence. But the transformation is incomplete. It is never complete, because strength, once tasted, demands renewal. Stillness becomes intolerable. Rest feels like surrender. He fills every hour. Committees, clubs, writing, training. Sleep is compressed, efficient, almost grudging. The mind races even when the body slows. The future presses close. He senses it waiting, not as promise, but as test. There are moments, rare and unguarded, when he wonders what would happen if he stopped, if he allowed himself to be fragile again. The thought repulses him. Fragility feels like an invitation, one death has already accepted before. He will not extend it twice. By the time he leaves Harvard, the boy who feared night has remade himself into a man who charges toward it. He believes, sincerely, that vigor is virtue. That effort redeems uncertainty. That decay can be outrun if one moves fast enough. Time watches all of this with indifference. It allows the muscles to grow. It allows the lungs to cooperate. It allows confidence to harden into conviction. For now, Theodore Roosevelt steps forward into adulthood carrying a weapon he has forged himself, his body sharpened by fear and will. He believes it will protect him. He believes it will last. He does not yet understand that time does not challenge strength directly. It waits, and it never tires. There are seasons when life loosens its grip, when vigilance softens, and the body, so long commanded, permits warmth to enter. For Theodore Roosevelt, that season arrives quietly, almost shyly, in the presence of a woman whose laughter cuts through his intensity like light through smoke. Love does not ask him to be weaker. It asks him to be still. Marriage steadies him. It alters the rhythm of his days, introduces pauses where once there were only forward charges. Rooms fill with voices, with plans spoken aloud, with the domestic music of an ordinary future. He allows himself to imagine longevity, not as conquest, but as shared time. For the first time since childhood, the nights grow less threatening, and then, without warning, the old lesson returns, more brutal than before. It comes in February. Winter clamps down on New York with iron fingers. Snow dulls the streets. The city holds its breath. In one house, 2 lives end on the same day. His wife dies. His mother follows hours later. The symmetry is obscene. No illness he can train against. No enemy to confront. No warning tremor in the lungs. Death does not announce itself this time. It simply takes, efficiently, without spectacle. Roosevelt arrives too late. The rooms are already still. The air feels heavier than it should. Sound behaves strangely, as if it has lost interest in traveling. He stands between 2 doors, unable to choose which loss to face first. Grief arrives, but not the kind that screams. It arrives as pressure, as compression, as a narrowing of the world to a single unbearable point. He does not weep publicly. He barely speaks. He writes a single sentence in his diary, thin and final, as if anything more would give the pain permission to multiply. Silence becomes armor. The boy, who once gasped for breath, understands this moment instantly. This is worse than asthma, worse than weakness. This is annihilation without struggle, and struggle is the only language he trusts. So he does what he has always done when confronted with the intolerable. He moves away from it, not metaphorically, physically. He flees east for west, grief for distance. He leaves behind rooms that echo with absence and steps into a land where death is at least honest about its intentions. The frontier does not comfort, it distracts. In the Badlands, grief is not an event, it is background noise. Men die without ceremony. Horses collapse. Violence arrives without apology. The land does not care who you were before you arrived. It strips everyone equally. This suits him. Here, suffering can be worked. Exhaustion can be chosen. Pain has edges he can grip. He rides until his muscles burn and his thoughts finally quiet. He hunts not for sport alone, but for the clarity that follows the kill, the moment when life and death acknowledge each other plainly. At night, under skies too vast to sentimentalize, memories surface uninvited. A laugh, a voice calling his name, a hand once warm, now forever absent. He does not chase these memories away, he lets them pass through him like weather. He is learning a new discipline, endurance without hope. Time behaves differently here. Days stretch, nights expand, the future loses shape. This is not rebuilding, it is suspension, a holding pattern where feeling is allowed only in controlled doses. Yet something subtle is happening beneath the surface. The silence he cultivates does not heal the wound, it preserves it. The loss is not processed, it is entombed, sealed behind motion, behind dust and danger, behind the myth of the man who does not break. The price of survival is emotional exile. When he eventually returns east, he brings with him a new gravity. His presence feels heavier, his laughter rarer, his eyes sharper. He has learned how to function while carrying devastation, and that lesson will never leave him. Love had taught him stillness. Death taught him that stillness is dangerous. From this point forward, rest will always feel like risk. Attachment will always carry a shadow, and time, once merely an opponent, has proven itself capable of cruelty beyond contest. Theodore Roosevelt moves on, but something essential has been left behind, buried not in the snow-covered streets of New York, nor in the open earth of the Badlands, but inside him, where silence now keeps watch. The land does not greet him. It does not acknowledge arrival. The Badlands simply exist, raw, wind-scoured, stripped of ornament or apology. The sky stretches too wide to comfort, the earth too broken to promise anything resembling mercy. Here, there are no illusions about permanence. Everything erodes. Everything ends. For Theodore Roosevelt, this is not a shock. It is confirmation. He comes west not as a tourist, but as a man seeking friction, something coarse enough to grind away grief without asking permission. The Badlands oblige. Dust coats his teeth. Wind bruises the face. The smell of animal sweat, gun oil, and sun-baked earth replaces the perfumed interiors of the East. Life reduces itself to essentials: shelter, water, vigilance. Survival is not heroic here. It is repetitive. It demands attention every hour. Men live by rules that would scandalize polite society. Violence is not celebrated, but it is accepted, like weather. Arguments are settled quickly. Theft is answered with pursuit. Mercy exists, but it is discretionary and rarely extended twice. Roosevelt watches, then he learns. He learns how to sleep lightly, with one ear tuned for movement, how to read the land for signs of danger, how to calculate risk not in abstractions, but in blood and bone. He carries a gun not as a symbol, but as a tool, its weight familiar, reassuring. When he uses it, the act is direct, clean, without the trembling hesitation that once marked his childhood encounters with mortality. The frontier does not require moral debate in the moment, only decisiveness. This, too, feels like mastery. There are nights when the fire burns low and the men sit in silence, faces flickering in orange light. Stories emerge, unadorned and unfinished. Tales of ambush, of betrayal, of loss, accepted without ceremony. Roosevelt listens, absorbing not just the content, but the tone, a way of speaking that refuses sentiment. He adopts it naturally. The past grows quieter. Grief no longer intrudes with the same violence. It has found competition in the daily demands of staying alive. Pain becomes manageable when it is shared with cold, hunger, and exhaustion. Yet the land is not curing him. It is shaping him. In chasing cattle thieves across frozen plains, in enduring nights where the wind howls like an accusation, in making decisions where hesitation would mean death, He is learning something dangerous. That order can be imposed through force. That chaos retreats when confronted without doubt. This lesson will follow him back east. There is a moment, unremarkable to an outsider, that seals it. A theft, a pursuit, a confrontation under open sky. The situation resolves quickly, decisively. When it is over, Roosevelt stands alone for a few seconds longer than necessary, his breath visible in the cold air. The adrenaline fades. What remains is not triumph, but clarity. He feels aligned with the world in a way he rarely has before. No second-guessing, no paralysis, no waiting for fate to decide. For a man who once waited nightly for his lungs to fail, this sensation is intoxicating. The frontier strips away ambiguity. It rewards action. It punishes softness. In its brutal honesty, Roosevelt finds a mirror that reflects back a version of himself he can live with, resolute, decisive, unburdened by visible doubt. But mirrors, like landscapes, distort. Each season he stays, something else erodes. The capacity for hesitation, the instinct to linger, the tolerance for weakness in others. He begins to see vulnerability not as a condition to be protected, but as a flaw to be corrected or eliminated. He does not articulate this belief, he absorbs it. When he eventually leaves the Badlands, he does so heavier than when he arrived, not in flesh, but in consequence. He carries with him a frontier ethic forged in dust and danger. It will serve him well. It will cost others dearly. The East will never quite understand the man who returns, nor will it recognize what the Badlands have taken in exchange for survival. Time has allowed him another transformation. It has permitted him to adapt, to harden, to endure. The land has baptized him not in water, but in violence and necessity. And once again, death has failed to claim him, but it has taught him something instead. That some things are lost, not in dying, but in learning how to live without fear. Power does not arrive quietly. It announces itself in footsteps, in applause, in the sudden way rooms rearrange around a man. When Theodore Roosevelt enters the White House, the building seems to tighten, as if bracing itself for motion it was never designed to contain. The corridors echo now, not with silence, but with energy. He moves fast, too fast for clerks, aides, tradition. Papers pile up, then vanish. Meetings stretch late into the night. Voices rise, clash, overlap. The presidency becomes not a position, but a current, and Roosevelt rides it with an exhilaration that borders on hunger. This is life at full volume. Crowds adore him. They cheer the vitality, the certainty, the visible force of will. He is not a distant figure framed by protocol. He is present, physical, alive. His body, once frail, once unreliable, now seems inexhaustible. He shakes hands until his arm aches. He gives speeches with a voice that carries like a challenge. He laughs loudly, often, as if daring the future to interrupt him. The nation sees vigor. It calls it leadership. Inside, something older stirs. The familiar rhythm of confrontation. The sensation of being needed, of being essential. Power offers him what grief and time have threatened to take away: relevance. Here, decay feels impossible. Decisions arrive constantly, each demanding resolution. Trusts are broken, forests preserved, enemies confronted. Roosevelt relishes the clarity of action. He has little patience for hesitation. Compromise feels like dilution. The frontier lessons apply cleanly in his mind. Chaos retreats before decisive force. The myth grows quickly. Newspapers amplify him. Artists render him larger than life, charging up hills, fists clenched, eyes blazing. The public devours the image of the indestructible man, the bulletproof president, the embodiment of national youth and momentum. He does not discourage this. There are moments, rare, fleeting, when fatigue seeps in, a stiffness in the joints after long rides, a headache that lingers longer than expected, a pause at the top of the stairs before continuing downward. He notices these things privately, with irritation rather than concern. They are inconveniences, nothing more. The memory of the Badlands hums beneath his actions. The White House becomes another frontier, another space to be mastered through force of personality. He believes, sincerely, that motion itself is a defense against decline, that if he keeps advancing, time will struggle to keep pace. At night, the building quiets. Lamps glow behind tall windows. The city outside settles into a murmur. These are the hours when the roar recedes and the cost of command becomes faintly audible. Letters go unanswered. Friendships thin. Intimacy becomes difficult to sustain under constant urgency. The presidency demands not just attention, but total availability. He gives it willingly, almost gratefully. To stop would be to listen, to memories, to doubts, to the faint signals of a body that has been pushed hard for decades. So he fills the silence. He boxes in the White House. He invites chaos into controlled spaces. He hunts whenever possible, seeking the old alignment of effort and clarity. He refuses to slow the pace, even when advisors urge caution. Slowing feels like surrender. The country, meanwhile, begins to believe the myth completely. They speak of him as if he were immune to consequence, as if history itself bends slightly to accommodate his energy. They cheer the spectacle, unaware that spectacle feeds on its host. Roosevelt feels the weight of expectations settle onto his shoulders, not as burden, but as fuel. He has become something larger than himself, and for a time, the sensation is intoxicating. The past retreats. The future feels distant. The present roars. Yet time is not impressed by applause. It observes quietly as the body absorbs strain, as the nights shorten, as exhaustion is overridden again and again by will. It notes the small signs. The way recovery takes longer, the way injuries linger, the way anger flares faster than before. For now, none of it matters. The White House is alive with momentum, and Theodore Roosevelt stands at its center, convinced, perhaps for the first time, that he has outrun the shadow that followed him from childhood. Death has missed its chance. History seems to agree, but time does not compete head-on. It waits for the moment when the roar fades just enough for stillness to return. And stillness, he has learned, is dangerous. It happens in a moment too small to feel historic. A street, a crowd, the familiar surge of bodies pressing close, voices rising in expectation. Roosevelt steps forward with practiced ease, his coat buttoned against the evening air, papers folded neatly inside. He is smiling, not broadly, but with that sharp, confident curve that suggests readiness for conflict. Then the sound cuts through everything, not thunderous, not cinematic, a crack, flat, final. The impact is immediate but confusing, a heavy punch to the chest, delivered without warning. For an instant, his body reacts before his mind can assign meaning. Breath stutters, heat blooms. Something warm begins to spread beneath the fabric of his coat. A bullet has found him. The crowd fractures into screams and motion. Hands reach. Voices shout orders that collide and cancel each other out. Someone tries to pull him back. Someone else cries out that he is dying. Roosevelt looks down. Blood darkens the cloth, slow and deliberate. The sight should alarm him. It does not. What he feels instead is irritation, an intrusive disruption to momentum. Pain registers second, anger first. He waves them away. The wound is there, undeniable, but the lungs are working. The heart still beats strong. He inhales once, deeply, testing the machinery. It responds. Good enough. They tell him to stop, to seek a doctor, to lie down. He refuses. The speech waits. The crowd waits. History, he believes, waits. He steps back toward the platform, blood seeping now, warm against skin. The manuscript in his pocket, thick with pages, has slowed the bullet, so has the muscle beneath. Flesh, paper, will. A strange alliance. When he speaks, his voice is hoarse but steady. He tells them he has been shot. He tells them it takes more than that to kill a bull moose. The crowd roars, part horror, part devotion. They are witnessing proof, not of courage, but of myth made flesh. Each word costs him something. His chest tightens. Dizziness creeps at the edges. But he continues, driven by something deeper than defiance. This is not merely stubbornness. This is identity. To stop would be to admit vulnerability. And vulnerability, once admitted, spreads. So he speaks for nearly an hour, blood drying, pain mounting, adrenaline carrying him forward. He feels oddly calm, as if the moment has clarified everything. The boy who once fought for breath is gone. In his place stands a man who refuses interruption, even by death. When it is over, when the crowd finally allows him to be taken away, the weight arrives all at once. The body, denied rest, collects its due. Weakness floods in. The room spins. The world narrows. Doctors probe and warn. They decide the bullet is better left where it lies. Removing it would risk more than leaving it embedded. A constant reminder beneath the skin. He recovers. The newspapers explode with praise. Cartoons immortalize the moment. The legend swells, reinforced by blood and spectacle. He is declared indestructible, a force beyond ordinary limits. Privately, something has shifted. The pain does not entirely leave. Breathing feels different, subtly constrained, like a door that no longer opens all the way. Fatigue lingers longer than expected. The body obeys, but with reluctance. Recovery now requires negotiation. He does not speak of this. Instead, he leans harder into the image. More speeches, more travel, more exertion. The bullet becomes a talisman, proof that fate itself has failed to stop him. He tells the story with relish, shaping it into armor. But late at night, when movement slows and the roar fades, he feels the foreign object inside him, cold, inert, permanent. For the first time, death has touched him directly and been denied. Yet the encounter leaves residue. He senses, dimly, that something fundamental has changed. Not dramatically, not enough to alter course, just enough to introduce a new awareness that survival now carries damage, that each escape leaves a mark. The myth insists he is untouched. Time knows better. It allows the applause. It allows the recovery. It allows the story to harden into legend. And then quietly, it begins to collect interest. The bullet did not kill him, but it did not miss either. It stayed, waiting. The first betrayal is subtle, a hesitation on the stairs, a pause before standing fully upright. The body, once an eager accomplice, now requires negotiation. Roosevelt notices these moments with irritation rather than fear. Irritation implies solvability. Fear would suggest limits. He has never accepted limits. Years of exertion have left their ledger written deep in muscle and bone. Injuries no longer heal cleanly. Pain lingers like a guest who has overstayed his welcome but refuses to leave. The bullet still rests inside him, an uninvited reminder that endurance does not equal invulnerability. He responds, as he always has, by pushing harder. Expeditions are planned with reckless ambition. He insists on proving that age is a fiction, that decline is optional. When illness strikes in foreign lands, he dismisses it as inconvenience. Fever becomes background noise, weakness an insult. But something is different now. Recovery does not arrive on command. The body resists. It delays. It demands concessions he does not want to grant. He grows short-tempered with himself, angry at the slightest sign of faltering. The discipline that once built him now turns inward, sharpening into cruelty. There are moments of humiliation, private, quickly buried. A night when breath comes shallow again, echoing childhood terror he believed conquered. A morning when joints refuse to cooperate, forcing him to sit in silence until movement returns. Time, once an abstract opponent, has become intimate. The world still treats him as indomitable. Invitations arrive, speeches are requested, admirers gather. He accepts, fueled by habit and pride. But the cost is rising. Each engagement drains more than it restores. Fatigue accumulates like debt. He senses it, and he resents it deeply. Rest is suggested. He rejects it. Rest feels like erasure. To slow down would be to admit that the man the public believes in is receding. He clings to motion not because it works, but because stopping would expose too much. Illness follows him now with patience. It does not attack, it accompanies. A cough that refuses to leave. Pain that migrates. Nights of shallow sleep punctuated by memory and discomfort. He wakes, already tired. This is not the dramatic confrontation he expected. No single battle, no clear enemy, just accumulation. The frontier taught him how to face violence. Politics taught him how to confront rivals. But no one taught him how to negotiate with decline. There is no honor in it, no applause, only adjustment. He does not adjust. Instead, he doubles down on will, attempting to bend the body through force of habit. The result is exhaustion, the kind that seeps into thought, dulling edges once razor-sharp. He becomes impatient with others, intolerant of delay, quick to anger. Not because he is weaker, because he is tired of pretending he is not. At night, alone, he presses a hand against his chest and feels the irregularities, old injuries, old decisions, the silent testimony of survival pushed too far. He remembers the boy counting breaths in the dark and realizes, with a bitterness he never expected, that he has come full circle. Only now, the threat is not sudden. It is slow. Time has not challenged him openly. It has outlasted him. Each year steals something small. Speed, resilience, certainty. None of it catastrophic, all of it cumulative. The realization dawns gradually and unwelcome. This is a battle he cannot charge. He can still act, still speak, still inspire. But the cost is mounting, and the reserves are finite. He feels himself becoming a man in conflict with his own legend, trying to meet expectations forged by a younger body. The will remains fierce. The body no longer believes in it. And for the first time since childhood, Theodore Roosevelt confronts an adversary that cannot be intimidated, outpaced, or fought to a standstill. Time does not retreat. It advances quietly, with perfect patience, and it is winning. The world does not slow out of respect. It accelerates. New faces fill the chambers of power. New voices shape the future with unfamiliar cadence. The old certainties fracture, then vanish. The nation Roosevelt once commanded surges forward into a century sharpened by machines, by mass mobilization, by war on a scale that mocks earlier conflicts. He watches from the margins. World War arrives with its thunder and horror, and Roosevelt feels the pull of it like a physical force. His body reacts first, an old reflex, immediate and unquestioning. He wants to go, to lead, to stand once more at the center of motion where purpose is undeniable. But the body hesitates. Age disqualifies what will alone cannot restore. The gate remains closed. Others decide without consulting him. The war proceeds with or without his presence. This exclusion wounds more deeply than he admits. He writes furiously, speaks when allowed, argues for action with a voice that still carries force but no longer commands inevitability. The country listens, politely, respectfully, then moves on. It is a new sensation, to be heard but not followed. Woodrow Wilson presides now, embodying a different rhythm, measured, cerebral, distant. The contrast is stark. Where Roosevelt embodied momentum, Wilson offers restraint. Where Roosevelt trusted action, Wilson trusts process. History has shifted its taste. Roosevelt feels the change acutely, not as jealousy, but as displacement. The future he once pushed toward now advances without his guidance, shaped by hands less calloused, less inclined to confrontation. He questions their resolve, their willingness to act decisively. He fears hesitation will cost lives, but fear alone does not grant authority. The world has learned new lessons. Mass warfare demands bureaucracy, coordination, patience. The frontier logic, charge, decide, impose, feels increasingly anachronistic. Roosevelt senses this even as he resists it. Letters from admirers still arrive, heavy with nostalgia. They thank him for what he was. The phrasing stings. Past tense is a quiet verdict. He grows restless, pacing rooms that once energized him. The same walls now feel smaller, the same arguments less effective. He speaks of preparedness, of duty, of moral clarity, but the echo returns weaker each time. There is a particular cruelty in watching the world validate your fears while rejecting your methods. The war claims lives in numbers too vast to comprehend. News arrives daily, relentless. Roosevelt's sons go. Some do not return whole. The cost of history becomes personal again, reopening old wounds. He bears it with the same stoicism that has carried him through loss before, but the weight is heavier now. Grief no longer disperses through motion. It settles. The nation reshapes itself. Industries expand. Technologies advance. Social structures strain. Roosevelt observes these changes with a mixture of fascination and alienation. He recognizes progress, yet feels increasingly out of step with its tempo. This is not the decline he anticipated. He expected to be defeated by force, by illness, by a final dramatic confrontation. Instead, he is being overtaken by relevance. The realization is quiet and merciless. Influence does not fade because a man weakens. It fades because the world finds new instruments better suited to its needs. He is still alive, still thinking, still willing. But the center has shifted. Time has not merely worn him down, it has rearranged the stage. As the war draws toward its conclusion, Roosevelt stands apart from the celebration, sensing that the story unfolding no longer has room for him as protagonist. He is a witness now, a commentator, a relic in motion. The roar has diminished, and in its absence, he hears something far more unsettling, the sound of history continuing, indifferent to his presence. This, too, is a form of defeat, one he never learned how to fight. Night returns as it once did, quiet, patient, unavoidable. It no longer brings the panic of childhood or the violent urgency of the frontier. It brings something colder, reflection, the kind that seeps in when motion finally slows enough for memory to catch up. Roosevelt sits alone in lamplit rooms, the light pooled narrowly on paper and wood. The rest of the world dissolved into shadow. Outside, winter presses against the windows. The house settles and creaks like an aging body. These sounds are familiar now, companions almost. Sleep comes reluctantly. When it does, it is shallow, easily broken. The body wakes itself, alert without reason, as if expecting another crisis that never arrives. He lies still, listening to his own breathing, noting its imperfections with a detached irritation. He has outlived urgency. In the long hours before dawn, memory abandons chronology. Moments surface without order or invitation. A boy gasping in a darkened bedroom. A young man bleeding beneath electric lights, refusing to sit down. A frontier fire burning low beneath indifferent stars. A laughter that once filled a room and never returned. The memories do not accuse. They simply exist. He wonders sometimes whether he mistook motion for meaning, whether all that relentless forward drive was an argument made against silence rather than a pursuit of purpose. The thought unsettles him, not because it feels false, but because it feels plausible. This is not regret. Regret implies alternative choices clearly seen. This is inventory. He counts what was gained: strength, influence, action, survival beyond expectation. He also counts what was lost: rest, intimacy, ease, the ability to remain still without feeling threatened. Time has reduced everything to essentials. The body speaks more clearly now. Pain has lost its drama. It arrives daily, predictable as weather. He responds to it with routine rather than resistance. The will, once explosive, has become brittle, still sharp, but less forgiving. There are moments when he considers surrender, not to death, but to stillness, to letting the days unfold without agenda. The idea hovers, tempting, then dissolves. Stillness has always felt like invitation, and he has spent a lifetime refusing invitations from the dark, so he continues to write, to read, to engage with the world at a distance. His mind remains active even as the body recedes. Thought, at least, still answers command, yet even thought tires. The night stretches. Hours pass unmeasured. He senses that he is approaching something, not an event, but a condition, a narrowing, a quieting. The world has already moved past him. Now the body prepares to follow. There is no fear in this realization, only fatigue, the kind earned over decades of resistance. He thinks, briefly, of legacy, not in terms of monuments or names, but of continuity, of whether anything essential will remain once the motion stops. He suspects the answer is both yes and no. Influence persists, but the man dissolves. This seems fair. Toward morning, when the darkness begins to thin almost imperceptibly, he closes his eyes. Breathing slows. The body settles into a fragile equilibrium. The long night loosens its grip, but does not release him entirely. Time is very close now. Not rushing, not threatening, just present. And for the first time since childhood, Theodore Roosevelt does not plan his next move. He allows himself to rest on the edge of wakefulness, suspended between memory and silence, aware that the struggle which defined him is nearly finished, not with a final charge, but with quiet acceptance. Dawn will come. Whether he greets it or not, no longer feels like a battle to be won. It feels like a transition already underway. The morning arrives without ceremony. Winter light slips cautiously across the land, pale and indifferent, touching frozen ground and bare branches with equal restraint. At Sagamore Hill, the house stands quiet, its windows dark, its rooms holding their breath. No crowd gathers. No announcement breaks the silence. History does not pause. Inside, Theodore Roosevelt lies still. The night has taken its time with him. It did not rush. It did not announce itself with pain or spectacle. It simply stayed, patient, constant, until struggle loosened its grip. The breathing that once fought so fiercely now moves shallowly, rhythm softened, effort reduced to habit. There is no final vision, no sudden clarity, only the body, at last, uncommanded. The man who spent his life in motion, charging, arguing, enduring, has arrived at the one place he never learned how to master. Stillness has claimed him not as an enemy, but as an inevitability long delayed. The room holds traces of him everywhere. Books stacked with restless logic, papers half-organized as if expecting interruption, furniture worn by decades of movement, pacing, rising, leaning forward with intent. The artifacts of a life lived as resistance. Outside, the world continues. A bird startles from a branch. Snow shifts under its own weight. Somewhere beyond the horizon, trains run, factories churn, governments argue, wars echo. None of it knows that a man who once believed himself essential has slipped quietly out of time. When the end comes, it is unremarkable. No struggle for breath, no defiant words, no final contest. The heart simply stops. For a lifetime, death failed to catch him. It missed in childhood bedrooms and on frontier plains. It stepped aside for bullets and illness and exhaustion. Again and again, it allowed him to pass. But time never missed. Time took the body slowly, honestly, without drama. It took strength first, then speed, then relevance, then urgency. It stripped him layer by layer until only existence remained, and then gently closed its hand. Those who find him speak in hushed voices. They remark on the peace of his expression, as if surprised. Perhaps they expected tension, defiance even at the end. They do not understand that the battle ended long before this moment. What remains is quiet. The legend will persist. It will be polished, simplified, repeated. Children will learn the name attached to action and vigor. Images will freeze him forever in motion, charging uphill, jaw set, eyes blazing. But that is not how he leaves the world. He leaves it as he entered so many nights in childhood, lying still, listening no longer for breath, no longer bracing against the dark. Time stands over him, not triumphant, not cruel, only complete. And somewhere, beyond the walls of the house, beyond the reach of memory and myth, the world continues its relentless advance, proving, at last, the truth he spent his life resisting, that survival is never victory, only delay, and that even the strongest will, carried far enough, must eventually yield, not to death's violence, but to time's patience.